Back in high school, the boys in our class started a cruel game, a secret ballot to vote for the ugliest girl. I came in first. Among the names that voted for me, one stood out in black and white. Julian Marshall. I had been in love with him for 6 years. To me, he was sunlight, bright, untouchable, and warm from a distance. He took the time to write out my name, stroke by stroke, and mock me for daring to confess my feelings. Every letter was a slap. Years later, Julian sat across from a Finance Channel host, being interviewed in a sleek studio. The host asked him if he had any regrets in life. Julian looked straight into the camera and said, "In high school, I mistook a pearl for a worthless stone. Someone else picked it up while I wasn't looking. I've regretted it every single day for 7 years. Luckily, she's still single. I might still have a shot." The someone else he was talking about? He was having dinner with me. At Julian's words, the man across the table paused, set his utensils down with the kind of grace that costs money to learn, and slid his plate of perfectly sliced wagyu toward me. "I need to make a quick call," he said, calmly. He stepped out onto the ocean view balcony, pulled out his phone, and his voice turned cold. "Apex Universal just closed Series C, right? Pull all funding, Northgate Capital, Solis Ventures, Crest Drive Partners. Full withdrawal." The boys in our class came up with a game, a secret vote for the ugliest girl. When the notebook finally got passed to me, the room went dead silent. The first page was for prettiest. The second? Ugliest. The prettiest section was competitive, names scribbled everywhere. The ugliest was unanimous. Line after line, it was my name. Out of 21 boys, 17 voted for me. I knew I wasn't good-looking. Single-lidded eyes, thick lips, darker skin, an outdated haircut, and a forehead that wouldn't stop breaking out. I wasn't delusional. I never expected romance, let alone Julian's attention. But the moment I saw his handwriting on that page, something inside me dropped, fast and deep. I'd known Julian for 6 years. Loved him for just as long. What I didn't expect was this, that the day after I confessed my feelings, he'd tear me down so publicly, so effortlessly. The confession wasn't planned. I was helping my parents watch over our fruit stall near the intersection when Julian passed by. I called out, handed him a bag of fruit, told him it was from his mom. Under the street lamp, his long lashes lowered. "Zella," he said, voice quiet, "I don't need your pity." He let go of the bag. I fumbled. Apples and pears scattered across the sidewalk. Like his pride, so thin and brittle, it tore on the first touch. Before I could think, I blurted, "Julian, it's not pity. I like you. That's why I wanted to do something nice." I forced a laugh. "It's not like you don't already have a drawer full of cookies, milk, and chocolate from girls. One more won't hurt, right?" 3 seconds passed. Maybe 30. I couldn't tell. Then he said, "Sorry. I don't like you." Just like that. Quick cut. Clean getaway. It was expected. I'd already braced myself. I gave a crooked little laugh, knelt down, picked up the fallen apples one by one, brushed off the dirt, and went back to hawking fruit like nothing had happened. Our family lived in the last crumbling block of low-rent housing left in the city, crowded, loud, run down. People here were too busy staying afloat to care how they looked. Poverty and exhaustion showed on every face. But Julian was different. He didn't belong here. His family lost their estate in a financial collapse, and they'd ended up in our neighborhood as a temporary stopgap. Back then, no one at school knew my mom worked as a housekeeper in Julian's home. He kept that to himself, preserved my pride. So when I confessed to him, I was trying to return the favor. I wasn't just bearing my feelings, I was protecting his dignity. Otherwise, I would have never said a word. But after I confessed, something shifted. He went from indifferent to actively repulsed. During evening study hall, his handwriting stared back at me like a spotlight to the face. Sharp strokes. Clean edges. Exactly like him, cutting, precise. I turned and looked at Julian. He met my gaze, cool and detached. His eyes were empty. The boy I once saw as the sun now felt more like the fridge light, cold, dim, and useless. All the boys in class held their breath, waiting to see what I'd do. If I was ugly and couldn't take a joke? That'd make it even better for them. The pen spun fast between my fingers. Slipped once. Twice. Tapped against the notebook. I took a deep breath, leaned forward, and signed my name with a flourish. Then I turned around and held it up. I vote for myself, too. If you don't want to be mocked, beat them to it. That night, the boys lowered their heads one by one, all suddenly very interested in their textbooks. After class, a few of them came up to me, awkward apologies in hand. It was just a joke. You're not that bad. Your skin would be nice if the acne cleared up. I smiled and said, it's fine. Because the truth was, I didn't care what they thought of me. And as for Julian? I was done caring. Later that night, I caught him at the corner of the alley and let it all out in one breath. Julian, I once borrowed a copy of Jane Eyre from your study. There's a line I want to return to you now. Do you think because I am poor, obscure, plain, and little, I am soulless and heartless? Clearly, to you all, being ugly means I don't get to have feelings. I don't get to be hurt. The irony is, none of you are evil. You cry over good deeds on the news, rage at tragedies on the internet. But you bully the girl who sits next to you and call it a game. You don't even realize it. This little classroom joke, you played it because it was funny. Whether it would hurt someone? That never even crossed your minds. I used to think you were different. Turns out you're just like the rest. So Julian, I take back what I said yesterday. He used to be as radiant as snow on mountaintops, as bright as the moon behind clouds. Now? Ordinary. Unremarkable. Just another boy in a school full of them. Whether I'm beautiful or not no longer matters, he's not worth liking. That day, something flickered in his eyes, something new, something real. But I didn't care to find out what it was anymore. Not long after, I switched seats. Got moved next to the most rebellious student in the entire school, Adam Sterling. The only boy who hadn't voted. The one Julian deliberately avoided. Julian had written Zella's name in that ugly little notebook full of mockery and malice, but what was running through his mind at the time wasn't cruelty. It was the way she smiled at Adam. He didn't think Zella was ugly. Not really. He'd seen her on the days her skin cleared up, maybe not beautiful by textbook standards, but definitely not ugly. His mother once said Zella had the kind of bone structure that could command a camera. Striking. Fierce. Maybe even supermodel material, if she grew into it and figured out her style. But Julian was a 17-year-old boy. That kind of beauty didn't register yet. What he did notice was how smart she was. Resilient. Way too sharp for her age. The way she handled teasing, always quick on her feet, always in control. One time, Adam had bought drinks for the whole class, and one of the guys cracked. Zella, with all those pimples, maybe skip the sugar today, yeah? She didn't miss a beat. You want an extra one? Just say it. Do my cleaning duty and the second one's yours. Julian admired that about her. But admiration wasn't attraction. Not then. So when Zella confessed her feelings, he turned her down. Still, when he got home and saw the stack of groceries her family had dropped off, the clean thermos of hot water waiting at the door, he felt a twist of guilt. Maybe he'd been too harsh. Maybe she was crushed. So he went back out to find her. And that's when he saw Adam. Most kids at school thought Adam was just a troublemaker with too much pocket money, a spoiled rich kid with a temper and a bike. Julian knew better. He knew what the name Sterling meant. His own father had spent years trying to get a meeting with the Sterlings. They never even returned a call. The same family that watched the Marshall Empire sink and didn't so much as blink. Adam's motorcycle was parked at the corner. He pulled a book out of his backpack and tossed it to Zella. She hugged it to her chest like a gift. Then she grinned, bright and easy, and handed him an apple. He, Adam Sterling, took it without blinking. Didn't even wash it. Just rubbed it against his shirt and bit in, right where Julian had refused it hours earlier. Same apple. Different hand. Later, in the dark, Julian lay on his creaky wooden bed, staring at the flickering silhouette in the window across the alley. And he asked himself again. Is Zella ugly? He thought, maybe she is. At least when she's smiling at Adam like that, maybe then, yes. She used to smile like that only at him. Honest. Wide open. Like the world wasn't heavy. But now, with the Marshall name in the dirt? She turned away. And gave that smile to someone else. It only took a couple days of sitting next to Adam for me to start regretting it. The guy was weird. The first time I sat down with my backpack in my arms, he was slumped over his desk, fast asleep. When he stirred and looked up, his eyes were half-lidded, lazy. Not chasing Julian around anymore, he mumbled. I never chased him, I shot back. He let out a short, sharp scoff. He was the only person in class who knew I used to have a thing for Julian. He'd found my sketchbook once. When he tossed it back to me, he just said, terrible taste. A few days into sitting beside him, it was Valentine's Day. The pretty girls and golden boys in class had desks stuffed with chocolate. Julian's cubby was overflowing. Adam stormed into the classroom out of nowhere, dropped a sleek-looking box of imported chocolates on my desk, and muttered. No one at my place eats these. Lucky you. I pushed it back. I'm cutting back on sugar. He didn't say anything. Just stood up, kicked his chair back with a loud screech, walked over to the trash can, and chucked the box in. Then he grabbed his bag and walked out. Skipped class entirely. A few minutes later, Julian walked over, wordless, and placed a different box of chocolates on my desk. These are sugar-free, he said. The room practically exploded. People started whispering. A crumpled note landed on my desk. Damn girl. Silent game strong, 1 move, 2 kings. The class prince and the class rebel? How'd you pull that off? Of course I didn't kid myself. It wasn't love. Adam and Julian didn't live in the same world as me. Never had. And I was still officially the ugliest girl in class. Julian's sudden change? It wasn't about me. His mom had picked up on the tension between us. I once overheard her saying, Zella's a good girl. Even if you don't like her, you owe her some kindness. As for Adam, I had no clue. He never did things in any kind of order. His weird behavior was starting to mess with my ability to focus. In class, he'd twist strands of my hair around his fingers when he got bored. He doodled my name in wild fonts across his scrap paper like a middle schooler. After school, he'd ride his motorcycle alongside my bus, racing it, just to make me roll my eyes. Adam Sterling had moods like weather in the mountains. When he was in a good one, he'd toss me a stack of imported books, share songs he liked, or hand me odd little trinkets I'd never seen before. When he wasn't, he'd block the hallway just to keep me from leaving during breaks. Once, during PE, he cornered me in the equipment room and wouldn't let me out the entire class. One day, I confronted him. Adam, seriously. All this juvenile crap, you sure you're not into me or something? He laughed so hard his face turned red. What? Into you? That's dumb as hell. He snorted. I'm just bored. Watching you freak out is hilarious. You're like a walking bad luck charm, how could I not mess with you? And yet, even with all the teasing, I didn't dislike him. Not even a little. The night of the class vote, the one that made me a punchline, he stood up, snatched the notebook off the desk, skimmed it, and tore it to shreds in front of everyone. Then he pointed at every guy in the room and let loose. You idiots don't even have basic taste, and you think you get to rate someone else? Who raised you? You think this kind of crap is normal? It's a disgrace just being in the same room as you. And for the record, she's not ugly. You are. That night, to me, Adam looked like something I never expected to see. A hero. Not the kind you wait for. Just the kind that shows up when no one else does. Adam was a strange kind of legend at school. He skipped classes whenever he felt like it, came and went on his own terms, answered to no one. The infuriating part? He was still one of the top students. My first real impression of him was simple, a guy who liked to play. The first time we ran into each other outside of school, he was at a music festival with a bunch of friends, spraying water guns. One stray shot soaked me from head to toe as I passed by. He looked at me, wide-eyed, then laughed and said, "Get on." Next thing I knew, I was flying around the city's ring road on the back of his motorcycle. "Wind dries faster," he yelled over his shoulder. Later, we were randomly paired for a small social research project. Every time we had a video meeting, Adam was somewhere new. Sometimes in a different province. Sometimes in a different country. I'd assumed he was just goofing off, traveling, living rich boy life on vacation. So when I saw him on the sports channel, I forgot to chew my food. There he was on screen, standing perfectly still, arms steady, holding an air rifle with complete control. His expression was calm, focused, like an entirely different person. I held my breath as he aimed at the bullseye and pulled the trigger. Behind me, Julian suddenly stood up and spoke to my mother. "Aunt Lily, my dad's being discharged from the hospital tonight. There's still a lot to set up at home, could Zella come help me?" Julian lied. There was nothing at his house that needed my help. The moment I stepped inside, he shut the door behind me and backed me into his room. "Zella, you see Adam lighting up the world and suddenly that's who you want now? You really think you two make sense? You know what people are saying about you too? About that PE class where you and him locked yourselves in the equipment room? Do you even know who he is? What family he comes from? He doesn't even need to take the college entrance exam, he's leaving the country right after graduation. So what happens when it's over, huh? He walks away still a golden boy. And you? You'll be the one with the reputation. The mess. The label you don't shake off." Just then, my phone lit up with a voice message from Adam. "Yo, classmate, did you catch my dashing moment on TV? Was I cool or was I cool? I'm outside your place. Come out. I'm taking you somewhere good." Our building had paper-thin walls, and Adam's voice was loud. Julian and I both heard every word, loud and clear. Before I could react, my mom's voice floated in from outside the room. "You're one of Zella's classmates? She's over at Julian's place helping out." There was a beat of silence. Then Adam's voice, cold and flat. "Is that so? Guess I'll head out, then." The alley outside went still. Quiet again. Then, another text. "Adam, come out. I'm at the corner." Julian stepped closer. Too close. I had to press myself against the wall just to keep some space. He leaned in, head lowered, his voice barely above a whisper, but desperate. "Zella, don't go. Please." When I reached the end of the alley, Adam was there, helmet in hand, leaning against his bike. The moment he saw me, his voice was like ice. "Get on." He rode fast that night. Recklessly fast. We tore through the city for miles, until we hit the coast. Only then did he kill the engine. He got off first and grabbed my wrist, dragging me toward the beach. His grip hurt. I tried pulling away, more than once. No use. "Adam, what the hell is wrong with you?" He didn't answer until we hit the edge of the water, where he finally stopped, turned, and looked down at me. "He kissed you, didn't he?" The question hit me like a slap. "That's not true." My voice shook. Julian didn't kiss me. Sure, he got close, too close, but a kiss? No way. Adam reached up and brushed the corner of my mouth with his thumb. I saw it, he said quietly. Your shadows. In the window. I turned my face, pulling away from his touch. Why are you always like this, Adam? You lock me in the equipment room during PE because I got paired with Julian for CPR training. Every time I so much as talk to him, you lose it. And then I asked him the question again, the one he never answered. Do you like me? He didn't speak. Just dragged the rough pad of his thumb slowly across my lips. Kiss me, he said, voice low, steady. Kiss me, and I'll tell you. Under the moonlight, his face looked carved out of silver. His eyes were dark, unblinking, impossible to read. Maybe it was the sea breeze. Maybe the moonlight. Maybe his voice. Or maybe it was something deeper, a string inside me pulled taut, finally snapping. I reached out, gripped his shirt, and rose onto my toes. His lips parted just slightly. And I kissed him. It was clumsy. Hesitant. My first. But the second my mouth touched his whole body changed. His arms locked around me. One hand on my waist, pulling me in. The other behind my head, holding me there as his mouth crashed into mine. Not gentle. Not soft. It was wild. Messy. Like something he'd been holding back for far too long. By the time he let me go, I couldn't feel the ground under my feet. We got back late that night. Salt clung to our hair, our clothes, our skin. The smell of the ocean still lingered between us. When Adam dropped me off at the mouth of the alley, Julian was there, standing under the street lamp. His father had just been discharged. A taxi idled nearby while Julian and his mother struggled to lift him into a wheelchair. Julian looked up as we approached. His eyes landed on me first, then on Adam. Something in his face cracked. Julian's father followed his gaze. The moment he recognized Adam, something inside him snapped. He lunged out of the wheelchair, tumbling to the ground, crawling, toward Adam on hands and knees. Grabbing at his shoes. His voice hoarse, desperate. Young Master Sterling, please, I'm begging you, ask the Sterling family to help us. Julian was frantically trying to pull him back. Dad, stop. Don't beg him. It's useless. Adam looked down, face unreadable. He slipped his shoe out of the man's grip. Then turned to me, voice calm, like none of this had happened. Get some rest. See you tomorrow. He swung a leg over his bike, started the engine, and roared away into the night. Late at night, I sat in front of the mirror, staring at the girl looking back at me. Monolids. Full lips. Dark skin. The acne had cleared up, mostly. But still, not beautiful. I thought back to that music festival. Adam had been surrounded by people, boys and girls who were all beautiful, stylish, magnetic. Every girl there looked better than me. I'd worn a plain white volunteer tee that day. Got soaked by a water gun. The fabric clung to my skin, transparent in seconds. Adam noticed before anyone else. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around me. Then he offered to take me on a ride, said the wind would dry me off faster. And in that moment, I saw it. In the eyes of the girls around him, jealousy. Mockery. Contempt. One of them scoffed. Adam, just give her my jacket. No need to make it a whole thing. Another guy chimed in with a smirk. Damn, Adam out here playing the sympathy card? Trying a little too hard with the weird girl aesthetic. From a practical, social, real-world perspective, I didn't match him. Not in looks. Not in background. Not in future potential. And watching Julian's father on his knees, begging Adam for help, only drove that truth deeper into my chest. Adam didn't even pretend to be polite. Not a single hollow word of comfort. Just silence and distance. That's when I finally understood how far away his world really was from mine. Julian had warned me. You two mess around all you want. He'll walk away untouched. You won't. And he was right. Adam was born in Rome, in every sense of the phrase. Born to ease, wealth, freedom. He could live however he wanted. Answer to no one. But me? I only have one shot. One way out. I study. I fight for my place. I survived the stampede on that single plank bridge the rest of us are forced to cross. There's no motorcycle ride waiting on the other side. Just more running. So when Adam showed up the next day, asking if I wanted to go out again, I said no. Exams are coming up. I don't have time to fool around. He blinked, taken aback. Then, fine. Let's study, then. And just like that, he brought me to his home. Not an apartment. Not even a regular house. A private estate at the foot of the mountains, guard post at the gate, winding roads through lakes, trees, and acres of manicured lawn just to get to the main villa. Years ago, Julian's dad had once taken me and Julian hiking near this very place. I still remember him pointing at those houses from a ridge above. People who live there, he said, can change your life with a single sentence. Now, I was standing there, me, in my faded sneakers and borrowed hoodie, looking every bit like someone who didn't belong. Adam didn't even hesitate. He grabbed my hand and pulled me through the gates like I was already part of it. At the entrance, a well-dressed man in his 50s greeted us. Adam nodded. Mr. Conrad, get Mr. Miller to come by. My girlfriend needs some help with physics, just that one subject holding her back. That day, I sat through hours of personalized tutoring in a state of complete shock, confusion, and quiet panic. Adam lounged next to me the entire time, cheek in hand, grinning like I was the most entertaining thing he'd seen all week. Every now and then, he'd lean over to pour me water or slide a fruit tray in my direction like it was normal. By the end of the day, he leaned in close, trapping me in the seat, breath warm against my ear. So? Studied enough? Can we do something else now? My face flushed. I shoved him away. Aren't your parents coming back soon? I should go. He grinned and nipped at my ear lightly. They're abroad. I jumped to my feet. Then I definitely need to go. He didn't get mad. Just gave me a soft kiss at the corner of my mouth and murmured, "Heartless little thing." Then he grabbed his helmet and rode me back to Red Brick Lane. After he left, I stood at the edge of the crumbling alley and looked back toward the direction of his house. That was the first time I felt it, not just noticed, but felt, the distance between our worlds. The gap was enormous. And Adam? He didn't care. But I couldn't help caring. Why did he like me? Was it the novelty? The thrill of something different? And if that was all it was, how long would it last? I didn't know. All I could do was repeat to myself, over and over. Live in the moment. Don't worry about what hasn't happened yet. I didn't expect it to happen this soon. The beginning of it all? Julian's father came to see me. He sat in his wheelchair, fidgeting, taking his time to get to the point. His voice was soft, careful, as if wrapping the request in layers of politeness might make it easier to swallow. I heard our Zella and young Mr. Sterling are quite close. That he really likes her. Spoils her, even. My dad's expression darkened. That's not true, he said flatly. I haven't heard anything like that. My mom kept winding her yarn, lips tight, eyes lowered. I tried to clear the air. Mr. Marshall, Adam and I just sit next to each other in class. That's all. But he suddenly reached out and grabbed my sleeve, his hand shaking, his voice strained. Zella. I've always treated you well, haven't I? Please. Help me. Just talk to him. Just mention us to him. If young Mr. Sterling puts in even one word, there might still be a way to save us. I looked at him, torn. Mr. Marshall, we're just students. The kind of thing you're asking for, it's too big. Adam's not in charge of anything. You need to speak to someone with real authority in the Sterling family. But he shook his head, firm. He's their only heir. Has been groomed as the successor since he was a kid. They treasure that boy like gold. If he says something, anything, at a family dinner, even casually, it might be enough to turn things around. Zella, this isn't just about me. It's about my wife. About Julian. About Marshall Consolidated. Thousands of people rely on us. You understand? That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling. My mom had worked as a housekeeper for the Marshall family for 6 years. And for 6 years, I'd read every book I could find in their study. Julian's parents had always treated me kindly. They opened a window to a world I never would have seen on my own. Shouldn't a person be grateful for that? That weekend, when Adam came to pick me up for another study session at his place, I hesitated. Turned it over in my mind for 2 full days. And just as I was about to leave, I finally said it. He was pouring me a glass of water when I spoke. By the time I finished, the water had spilled, first onto the table, then dripping down onto the floor. Adam didn't turn around. His voice, when it came, was cold in a way I'd never heard from him before. The first time you ever ask me for something, and it's for Julian? Do you even know why Marshall Group is under investigation? You're asking the Sterlings to step in on a case involving economic crimes. Do you understand what that means? They're being audited. Charged. People are under formal investigation. The verdict isn't even out yet, and you want my family to stick their necks into that? You really can't let Julian go, can you? If that's where your heart still is, then please, don't come near me again. He was furious. And after that day, he disappeared from school, for 2 full weeks. By then, Adam had already become a school-wide legend. Word had gotten out that he'd won gold at the Olympic qualifiers. Everyone was talking about him, how sharp he looked when he competed, how clean his aim was, how cool he looked with that gun in hand. Girls whispered about him constantly. Some of them came to me, asking how I'd managed to win him over. Right after his win, he'd come back to school like nothing had happened, his motorcycle roaring at the school gates every morning and afternoon as he dropped me off and picked me up without a second thought. People asked what we were. He didn't even flinch. She's my girlfriend. Can't you tell? Now, I sat beside an empty chair, staring at the space where he used to be. And something in me felt just as hollow. I eventually texted him an apology, a long explanation. He never replied. I didn't see him again until there were only 3 months left before graduation. He crossed the massive school field, sunlight behind him, a girl beside him, so stunning, she seemed to glow. I was on stage, delivering the graduation speech on behalf of the student body. The moment he appeared, the crowd stirred. Heads turned. People craned their necks to get a better look. And when they saw the girl at his side, all eyes darted back to me. He stopped near the front, standing with her, and looked at me like I was a stranger. I forced myself to keep going, blinking back the heat behind my eyes. I was born to be the mountain, not the stream. To stand at the summit and look down on mediocrity. My classmates echoed the words, voice after voice rising with conviction. All except him. He stood there, silent. Afterward, he caught me at the school gates. Told me he'd be going to Stanford. Congratulations, I said. You still aiming for Viridia? Yeah. He gave a dry, bitter smile. Then he put on his helmet, started the engine, and rode away. That was the last time I saw him before the college entrance exams. The next time? He was on TV. 18-year-old Adam Sterling, standing atop the Olympic podium, a gold medal around his neck, the national anthem playing as the flag rose behind him. He was the one who had reached the peak. The one truly above the noise. I quietly packed away the little things he used to give me. Deleted his contact from my phone. The dream was over. We moved on, each in our own direction. Julian and I both got into Viridia University. And not long after we started school, he suddenly started chasing me. No explanation. Just persistent attention. By then, my skin had cleared up. My face had slimmed out, so had the rest of me. I'd learned how to do my makeup, changed my hair, started dressing with intention. Not to impress anyone, just for me. To feel powerful. To walk into a room and own it. My confidence was no longer something I borrowed, it was something I built. My roommates used to say I wasn't the delicate, porcelain kind of pretty. Not the soft, pale, dainty sort. You've got presence, one of them said. That kind of wild, untamed beauty. Unmistakable. You walk by, and people turn around. When I told them I'd once been voted ugliest girl in class, they stared at me like I'd just confessed to being royalty in hiding. No way. No freaking way. You get stopped for street-style shoots every time we go shopping. Your old class had to be cursed or legally blind. What kind of busted aesthetic were they working with? I laughed. If you don't believe me, ask Julian, finance department's crown prince. He voted for me too. That nearly caused a meltdown in the dorm. You're kidding. Him? And now he's chasing you like a golden retriever with a crush? Please. What is that, some kind of poetic justice kink? I just smiled and let them talk. Some things don't need explaining. In the end, the Marshall family weathered the storm. Only a few top execs were arrested. Julian's father walked free, and Marshall Consolidated eventually resumed operations. But Julian never moved back to the villa. Even during school breaks, he stayed in Red Brick Lane, and more often than not, found excuses to show up at my family's doorstep around dinner time. He tried everything to win me back. Said sorry 100 different ways. I was jealous, Zella. That's the truth. I lost control and acted like a complete asshole. Every single day you were with Adam felt like a knife in my chest. I couldn't sleep. I'd see you smiling at him and feel like I was dying inside. Can I have one more chance? Just one? I accepted his apology. But not his confession. Some things, once broken, just don't come back. And some feelings? Once gone, they're gone for good. Julian didn't give up. Outside of schoolwork and a startup he was hustling on the side, every ounce of his effort went into me, and into helping my family. He said he believed in persistence. In drip water wearing down stone. In grinding iron bars into needles. In mythical birds filling oceans and old men moving mountains. I said, Julian, stop trying to impress yourself. By junior year, 2 major things happened that changed my life. 1. Red Brick Lane was finally scheduled for demolition. My parents got compensation, housing, and stability. No more living with 1 foot on cracked concrete. 2. I signed with an international modeling agency, and earned my first real money. After walking the runways of shows big and small, in cities near and far, people started noticing me. A lot of people. And with that came more attention. More admirers. More men who said the right things. But I didn't feel like dating. Not even a little. My roommates teased me. What, no one measures up? You met someone too perfect when you were young, didn't you? And just like that, his face flashed in my mind. Adam's grin. I hadn't seen him in years, but I always knew what he was up to. One of my roommates was a hardcore fan. She shared screenshots of his Instagram in our group chat all the time. He was still out there, doing exactly what he'd always done. No filters. No performances. Just Adam, chasing the next edge. Rock climbing. Surfing. Skiing. Free diving. Wingsuit flying. He nearly got swept off course during one wingsuit flight due to a sudden gust of wind. Came close to disaster. Did it stop him? Of course not. He kept going, like he always had. Like he didn't know how to stop. And in all those photos and clips, there was never a girl. Never anyone else in the frame. That's why so many girls obsess over him, my roommate explained. No distractions. He makes you feel like he's married to the wind. The closest I'd been to seeing him again was when he came to Viridia University as a guest for a public talk. I stood outside the auditorium with a ticket in hand. But I never went in. The next time I saw him, for real, was 3 years after graduation. By then, I'd built my own studio, Elysian Curations. Still modeled part-time. Still stayed in the game. One season, I walked in Prada's new launch show in Milan. Scrolling through Instagram backstage, my breath caught. Adam's latest post was geotagged, Milan. My heart skipped, like it had been waiting for that update without even realizing it. Part of me hoped I'd run into him. Part of me dreaded it. The lights flared. The show began. And I stepped onto the runway. Years had passed. But the second I saw him, it felt like no time at all. He was sitting near the front, black shirt unbuttoned just enough, sleeves rolled, posture loose but unmistakably refined. Older now. Sharper. The boy was long gone. What remained was a man with presence. And he wasn't alone. He was turned toward the woman next to him, saying something with a slight smile. She was the same girl I'd seen years ago at that music festival, still glowing, still stunning, the kind of beauty that makes a room seem dimmer by comparison. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. Then opened her water bottle. She looked up at him, eyes curved in a soft smile. Moonlight in human form. They looked perfect. A couple sculpted out of symmetry and timing. And me? I stood under a spotlight, thinking back to all the times I'd scrolled his feed and told myself, there's never any girls. That must mean something. I'd believed, quietly, stubbornly, that silence meant space. 7 years. I thought I'd moved on. But in that split second, watching him smile at someone else, watching him care for her the way he once did for me. Tears came. Fast. Hot. Unexpected. I cried on the runway. A model breaking down in the middle of a show, that's a headline-worthy disaster. But somehow, that one shot, that one moment, eyes shining, face turned slightly back, tears slipping down. It blew up. Went viral. The internet lost its mind. Everyone wanted to know what happened to that model, the one who cried on the runway and still looked like art. Clips from the show spread everywhere. Slowed down. Analyzed. Replayed like emotional choreography. One fashion blogger practically turned it into a masterclass. Let's talk about the theme of this collection, transformation. Look at Zella's walk. At the start, power. That entrance? Lethal. She owns the room. Midway, something shifts. Her smile softens. There's a hint of vulnerability. Then, just before the final stop, there's self-awareness. A flicker of irony. And then the moment, the turn. Her eyes crack open, one tear falls, but her smile stays. That's the arc. Freedom. Infatuation. Heartbreak. Healing. Rebirth. All told in 30 seconds. This isn't just modeling. That's performance. That's professionalism. The clip's comment section stacked into the tens of thousands. Hot take, modeling is just her side gig. She's the founder of Elysian Curations, one of the most talked about new creative studios. Also, Viridia University undergrad, MIT MBA. Reply, academic weapon stomping down the runway. She told an entire story with just her eyes. Reply, her face is so interesting, it's not classic pretty, but the more you look, the more you can't stop looking. I think I'm obsessed. And just like that, my accidental breakdown became a breakout. It landed me in the main hall of the after party, an invite-only room I wasn't even supposed to see until next season. Which is where I saw him. Again. Adam. I moved through the room with a glass of champagne in one hand and a perfectly practiced smile in the other. Surrounded by the world's elite, old money, new power, names that moved markets, I let myself be seen, admired, flattered, desired. None of it mattered. And all of it did. Because I had my own reasons for being here. From the moment I entered, I felt Adam's eyes on me, tracking my every step. I pretended not to notice. Instead, I flowed easily through conversations with polished men in custom suits, letting my laughter linger just long enough, letting my gaze drift just far enough. I allowed myself to be a prize they chased, because I knew exactly what I was doing. And in places like this, knowing what you're doing is everything. Glass after glass. Partner after partner. The music never stopped. On the seventh dance, he came for me. An arm wrapped around my waist. Firm. Familiar. His voice against my ear, low, tense, unmistakably his. Zella. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Of course I was. Of course he knew it. I draped one hand lazily over his shoulder, my eyes soft with champagne haze and something sharper. Obviously. This whole room runs on intention. Some people are fish. Some are bait. Some are the fishermen. No one here came without a motive. His grip on my waist tightened, pulling me closer. 3 years, and now you talk like a stranger. 3 years, and now you hand out accusations like party favors, Mr. Sterling. He stared at me like a hawk, sharp, unblinking. His hand possessive on my back, no longer dancing, just holding. Where's Julian? Didn't come with you to Milan? I tilted my head, feigning sweetness. Where's your date? Not glowing enough to bring tonight? He didn't flinch. So you did see me at the show. Touché. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The song faded. The crowd shifted. Adam didn't let go. Instead, he pulled me through the glass doors and out onto a quiet terrace. The air was colder than I expected. He shrugged off his jacket and draped it over my bare shoulders. I didn't refuse it. For the first time in years, I stood still in front of him and didn't have a script ready. It wasn't until a few drinks in that he finally spoke. That tear, who was it for? I tilted my head, met his eyes. What do you think? He didn't answer right away. Just looked past me, into the blur of city lights beyond the terrace. Then, quietly. For a moment, I thought, it was for me. I was just about to speak, when she appeared. The girl from the show. Glowing, composed, and now standing at the edge of the balcony, eyes flicking between us. Adam, she asked softly, who's this? He paused. Then turned to her and said. Zella. My high school classmate. My ex. He glanced at me again. Lana. My childhood friend, and my fiancé. There it was. The wind came in sharp and sudden, cutting through silk and bone alike. Lana smiled warmly. So this is Zella, I've heard a lot. Adam misspoke, by the way, we're not engaged yet. The ceremony's at the end of the month. Her eyes flicked to the jacket on my shoulders. I started peeling it off instantly, but somehow the lining caught, I couldn't get the sleeve off. Not without flailing. Not without looking like a mess. My face flushed hot. My fingers fumbled. I didn't think anything in life could feel more humiliating than this exact second. But then, Lana reached forward and gently touched my hand, stopping me. It's fine. Keep it on. I nodded, robotic. Thanks. I have something to take care of. I should go. A lyric came to mind. When the heart has nothing left to ask for, the wind means nothing. And neither does stillness. If something was never mine, then letting go was all I could ever do. I returned to the banquet, back into the golden-lit battlefield. I did what I came to do. I met the right people. I shook the right hands. I earned contacts, powerful ones. I left with promises from 3 luxury houses and the private numbers of men who wrote checks with 6 zeros. Back at the hotel, tipsy and blinking through the haze, I fished out my phone to message my assistant. Only to realize it wasn't my phone at all. The lock screen showed a photo of me I'd never taken. I tried unlocking it. Wrong password. Right then, it rang. "You've got my phone. Can I come get it?" I blinked, groggy. "Why would your phone be with me?" "Don't be ridiculous." "Because the one you're holding is mine." "Where are you?" I touched the sheets beneath me, mumbled, "In bed." There was a long silence on the other end. Then his voice, low and rough. "You're at the Bulgari Hotel, aren't you?" That night, the wine blurred my thoughts. But for him, everything suddenly came into focus. On my return flight to the US, the airline staff informed me I'd been upgraded. Upgrades weren't new to me, but an upgrade that involved switching planes entirely? That was a first. A completely empty shuttle bus ferried me to the aircraft. I boarded, heels clicking softly on the steps, and immediately understood what was happening. It wasn't an upgrade. It was a private jet. And sitting inside, flipping through a thick packet of financial reports, was Adam. I didn't even ask how. I already knew. "What is this supposed to mean?" I asked, arms crossed. He looked up, calm. "I'm heading back too. Figured I'd give you a ride." I let out a quiet laugh, cold and disbelieving. "You're getting engaged at the end of the month. And you just leave your fiancé behind to give me a lift across continents?" "Yes," he said simply. I turned to leave. I wasn't about to get tangled up in whatever this was, no matter how much unfinished history sat between us. But the cabin door had already sealed shut. "Sit down," he said, unbothered. "Buckle up. Let's talk business." That stopped me. So this wasn't about us. Julian had once told me, the Sterling family planned to donate a major collection of cultural artifacts to a national museum, 361 pieces in total. A standalone exhibition would be organized. Now, Adam looked at me and said, "I want your company to handle it." The wave that hit me was instant, and massive. But I didn't let it show. "Absolutely," I said, without a beat of hesitation. He raised an eyebrow. "You haven't even asked about the terms." "Wouldn't matter if we lost money on it. The cultural significance alone outweighs everything else." "When can we sign the contract?" To prove I was serious, I pulled out my laptop and began drafting a proposal right there. Halfway through, I paused to ask something embarrassingly basic. "Are the artifacts on this plane?" He looked up, amused. "No. Not even close to fitting." I sighed. "None of them?" "I was hoping to get a peek at the treasures you tracked down." I meant it, too. There was still that part of me, curious, reverent, maybe even a little starry-eyed. He finally looked up, eyes lifting from the glowing pad in his hands, gaze settling squarely on me. "There's one piece," he said. "I had to bring it with me. Couldn't let it out of my sight." I straightened, interest instantly piqued. "What is it?" He gave a small smile. "You're smart. Can't you guess?" I leaned forward, narrowing my eyes in mock seriousness. "Don't tell me, the long-lost Queen's scepter?" A long pause. He stared at me, deadpan. "Seriously?" After we landed, Adam didn't give me a chance to think, just ushered me straight into his Cayenne and drove. When I so much as looked like I might protest, he said evenly, "You want that contract or not?" So I shut up. We arrived at his villa. Empty, echoing, yet somehow already prepared. A long dining table was set, the plates already steaming. We sat at opposite ends. He slid a folder toward me, the contract. "Answer 3 questions honestly. If you do, not only will you get this exhibition, every art-related project under the Sterling family umbrella will be yours from now on." I blinked. Seriously? All that just for answering 3 questions? Dead serious. He opened a bottle of wine and poured me half a glass. First question, he said. That tear. Who was it for? I took the glass, held his gaze, and told the truth. For you. For me. For the love we never got to finish. He stared for a second. Then tossed back his wine in one hard swallow. I smiled faintly. Drank mine too. He poured again. Second question. Between me and Julian. Did you ever regret choosing him? I topped off his glass before answering, voice steady. I never chose him. His eyes narrowed. Zella. The rule is honesty. I am being honest. I never chose Julian. Not even when I asked for help on behalf of his family. That wasn't about him. It was about his parents, people who were kind to mine. I let go of him a long time ago. You just never believed it. He leaned in, frowning. You didn't date him? Not once. Not even during those 7 years? No, I said. He looked like the air had left his lungs. His breathing caught, shallow, sharp. Then, out of nowhere, he laughed. Loud. Unhinged. Tears welled up from the corners of his eyes, blurring into laughter. He lifted the glass again and downed it like a shot. I drank with him, one more glass for the graveyard of misunderstandings between us. Then I set my glass down and looked across the table. And the third question? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he softened his voice. Eat with me first. Then we'll finish. And so, we ate. Slowly. Silently. A long dinner soaked in years of distance, the weight of things unsaid pressing into every bite. He served me course by course, every movement measured, elegant, refined. Nothing like the reckless boy who once took the apple from my hand and bit into it without a second thought. That version of Adam felt like a lifetime ago. The silence between us was pressing in, so I asked if we could turn on the TV, just for some background noise. He nodded. The screen flickered on. It landed on the finance channel. And there it was. Julian's voice filled the empty living room. He was on screen, seated across from a polished host. Now the president of Apex Universal, one of the rising stars of global finance. The host asked, "Any regrets in life?" Julian looked directly into the camera. In high school, I mistook a pearl for a pebble. Someone else picked her up before I realized what she was worth. I've regretted it every day for the past 7 years. The good news is, she's still single. So I might still have a chance. The someone else he was talking about? Was sitting right across the table from me. Adam calmly put down his fork and knife. Gently pushed the cut wagyu in my direction. Excuse me. I need to take a call. I stood up to switch off the TV. The sea breeze slipped in through the open glass. And I heard every word. Out on the ocean view balcony, Adam's voice dropped into ice. Apex just closed their Series C, right? Tell Northgate Capital, Solis Ventures, and Crest Drive Partners to pull out. All of them. He returned to the table as if nothing had happened. Sat down. Met my eyes. Zella, he said quietly. Final question. Think carefully. I nodded. Steadily. Honestly. He looked at me, no games left between us. Do you want me to call off the engagement? Lana never quite understood why Adam fell for Zella. She'd visited the school once. Said Zella looked average. Decent face. Decent grades. Decent background. Maybe impressive among regular people, but next to Adam, she said, it just didn't add up. She wasn't wrong. Not by her definition. But Lana didn't know the whole story. Adam did. The first time he saw Zella, it was at the scene of an accident. A construction worker, barely in his 20s, had fallen from 6 meters up. His chest had been pierced straight through by an exposed rebar spike, leaving him dangling in the air, balanced on tiptoe, blood pouring out as he screamed for his mother. The scene was chaos. People gasped, screamed, looked away. Some cried. Others just stood frozen, horrified, helpless. Adam was already on the phone with emergency services when he saw her. A girl, maybe 16 or 17, bolted through the crowd, backpack still on her shoulders, dressed in the plainest school uniform. She didn't flinch at the blood. Didn't pause to think. She ran to the dying man, wrapped her arms around him, held him up so he didn't have to hold himself anymore. Gave him a place to lean. A place to rest. She whispered to him, soft and steady. Don't be scared, okay? You're going to be all right, they're coming, just hang in there. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She just didn't want him to die alone. The man died in her arms. Sobbing. Bleeding. Calling for his mom. And when his body finally gave out, she was soaked in blood. Her face streaked with tears. She was still just a high school sophomore. And yet, she didn't run. Adam remembered something one of his instructors once said. Even when the North Sea is frozen solid, I've seen plum blossoms bloom. That day, in that brutal winter of a scene, he saw her. A soul that burned too bright for the world it was born into. He'd never seen anything like her since. And he never forgot her after. From that day on, Zella lived in Adam's heart. And never left. He transferred to a public high school just to be closer to her. And not long after arriving, he found out she liked someone else. She had a sketchbook, one he accidentally stumbled across. Every page was filled with drawings of Julian. Julian. What had he ever done to deserve her attention? Julian, who later joined the boys in that humiliating class vote and mocked her appearance with his own handwriting. When Zella changed seats and ended up beside him, Adam felt like the gods had finally answered a prayer he never dared say out loud. He started trying everything to be good to her. Subtle at first, then less so. And when she asked, "Do you like me or something?" it was the first time in Adam's life he couldn't string a sentence together. He'd never been that nervous, never been that unsure. To her, he was just a rich kid who liked to mess around. Adrenaline, rebellion, motorcycles. That's what she saw. So he decided to show her the other side. Told her when the Olympic qualifiers would be broadcast. Hoped she'd watch. Hoped she'd be proud. He even waited outside her building that night with plans to take her out, let her talk his ear off about how impressive he'd been. But she wasn't home. She was at Julian's. And Adam saw them, through the window. Close. Too close. Jealousy twisted something in his chest. He wanted to storm upstairs, pull them apart. But he didn't. He stood on the street corner, minute by minute, like his soul was pressed against a burning stovetop. When she finally came out, he couldn't hold back anymore. That was the night he kissed her. Poured everything into it, every ounce of hunger, every word he'd never said. They got together after that. But even when she was with him, he never felt secure. She was compliant. She never pushed him away. But she never gave him the warmth she once gave Julian. Never gave him that same spark in her eyes. Then came the night she asked him to help Julian's family. That was the last straw. So it was about Julian all along. Adam had never felt that kind of failure before. Not in training. Not in competition. Only with her. She texted later. I didn't mean to put you in a bad spot. I wasn't doing it for Julian. But how could he believe her? He'd seen the sketches. The way her eyes used to drift to Julian when she thought no one noticed. At school, when she stood on stage delivering a speech, Julian was right beside her, watching her like she was the sun. And when Adam asked what university she was aiming for, she said Viridia. The same as Julian. So he let her go. Threw himself into Olympic training like it was the only thing left. After winning gold, he couldn't help himself. He sent her a message anyway. Heard you got into Viridia. Congrats. No reply. She'd blocked him. Because he hadn't helped Julian? That was enough to erase everything? In the end, Adam still went to speak with his father. He didn't owe Julian anything. But if Zella was truly going to tie herself to that man for life, then he couldn't stand by and watch Julian's family fall apart. Whatever else he felt, he couldn't let her carry that burden. Fortunately, Julian's father wasn't implicated in the investigation. With a little help from the right people, things were resolved cleanly. Julian came to thank him afterward. They shook hands. Said polite things. Even exchanged contact info like two CEOs in training playing at civility. After that, Adam began to see her more and more often on Julian's feed. Photos of her at art exhibits. Study groups. Cafes. Laughing. Always beautiful. Always just slightly out of reach. She was blooming. College fit her. Her confidence sharpened. Her beauty became deliberate. She looked alive in a way that made him ache. He visited her campus a few times. Never let her see him. Just watched from a distance, feeling like a ghost in a life he once might have lived. When he was invited to speak at Viridia University, he cracked. He couldn't help it. Quietly asked a professor if he could pass along a ticket to her. He saved a seat. She never came. That chair sat empty the entire evening. They say there are 3,000 kinds of pain in this world, but only one that can't be cured. Longing. Adam learned that lesson too well. The day Julian posted on social media, announcing their relationship publicly, Adam was suiting up for a wingsuit flight. His friend tried to stop him. Weather's unstable. He jumped anyway. In the split second when the wind caught him wrong, when he lost control for just a breath of time, he had one thought. If I died right now, would she cry? Would she hurt? Would her heart clench in that wild, messy, irrational way? Would she care? After that flight, he stopped checking Julian's feed. He never once questioned the authenticity of those posts. Never imagined the ways people twist truth for possession. He didn't know. All he knew was this. He had never missed anyone like this before. And never wanted less to see them. The thought that she might never be his, that she might already belong to someone else, was the kind of despair that left no room to breathe. So he ran. Into cliffs. Into currents. Into sky. Into every kind of near-death thrill that could dull the ache of missing her and not being able to reach her. Because some obsessions can't be killed. They can only be outrun. The only answer that mattered. Everything changed at that Milan runway show. Zella saw herself clearly in that moment, eyes bright, yet brimming with sorrow. That single tear shattered Adam's certainty. Why did she cry? Could it have been for him? Did he still live in her heart? He had to know. He asked her once, on the balcony of the gala. Then again, under the gilded arches of the Bulgari Hotel. She'd been tipsy then, looped around his neck, voice slurring just enough to give her away. There's only one person in this world who can make me cry. That person is too far from me. I've run so hard to catch up, finally closed the distance a little. And now he's about to marry someone else. First came his shock. Then confusion. And finally, an ecstasy so fierce it terrified him. The answer was there. But it was tangled in wine and fog. He needed her to say it, sober, clear, deliberate. So he asked his 3 questions. But they were really all the same question. Do you love me? And his face, God, his face looked so damn careful, like he was balancing his heart on a knife's edge. I looked straight into his eyes, and asked the only thing I still didn't understand. What exactly is going on with you and Lana? His expression tensed. Answer me first. No. I need to know what you and Lana really are. Otherwise, I can't give you a real answer. He stared me down, stubborn and almost pleading. Forget all that. Just tell me one thing, do you want me to call off the engagement? I took a long breath. And answered honestly. Yes. I want you to call it off. I don't want to watch you marry someone else. And then? But. Before I could finish, he kissed me. Hard. Fierce. Desperate. Like he was starving and I was the only thing that could keep him alive. That kiss wasn't gentle, it was reclaiming something he thought he'd lost. It was part revenge, part surrender. Somewhere between his breath and mine, I tried to speak. Adam. Lana. But he didn't stop. Still kissing me, he reached for his phone and called her, on speaker. Lana's voice blared through. Well? Did it work? Did it work? If she got jealous, then it definitely means she still has feelings for you. Tell me I'm a genius, come on. And don't forget our deal. Adam, still out of breath, replied. The celebrity you like, I'll fund a whole reality show. 2 months off-grid in the mountains. Just the two of you. Of course. She wasn't his fiancée. She was his cousin. That night, the moonlight was soft, the sea breeze damp and sweet. His voice lingered by my ear, each whisper more seductive than the last. Can I? The moonlight crept inch by inch. The waves rolled in, one after another. Washing over ears, over skin, over the heart. On the wall, our shadows tangled with moonlight. Slowly drowning in this endless tenderness. I remembered the first time I saw him. Winter, sophomore year. Snowfall thick as feathers. I'd just finished cleaning duty and was taking out the trash. He stood under the hallway light, books in hand. The yellow glow cast across his face like a painting. He said. Hey, you're from class 1, right? I'm the new transfer. I'm Adam. Do you need a desk mate? I remembered the time I was curled up at my desk from cramps. He walked past, wordless, handed me painkillers, then ordered milk tea for the whole class. Only mine was hot. I remembered all those moments I looked back in class and caught his eyes. Flustered, quickly looking away. I remembered that first time he ditched everyone just to take me on a joyride. His back stiff with nerves and barely contained joy. But I'd always been trapped in the word ugly. I never believed anyone could like me just because. Even when he tried, again and again, to show me. I didn't dare believe it. Turns out, he was just like me. Just as afraid, just as unsure. Loving, but doubting. Wanting, but second-guessing. How foolish, how ridiculous, the two of us were. But luckily, after all the detours, we didn't miss each other in the end. Later, a reporter asked us. You missed out on 7 whole years. Any regrets? Adam? Of course. I nodded, then shook my head. Yes and no, I said. Back in high school, he shone like the sun. And I? I felt like a shadow. He was already a towering tree. I was still a seed underground. If I hadn't spent these 7 years growing, slowly, steadily. If I hadn't broken through soil and turned toward the sun. I wouldn't be standing here today. Not with this peace, this pride, this confidence. To look him in the eyes and accept his love as his equal. The reporter shifted gears. Recently, Apex Universal CEO Julian has made several public gestures toward Miss Ella. Including renaming the company's flagship product after her. Adam turned to the camera. This airs tonight, right? The cameraman nodded. Adam pulled out 2 red marriage certificates. Julian, I hope you see this clearly. If you harass my wife again, I won't just sit back. Think carefully. I gave him a look. Cut that part. Nope. Leave it in. Why are you trying to cut it? Got something to hide? You sound like a schoolboy picking a fight. Not a good look. Don't care. You sure you want our wedding announcement video to include him? He thought for a second. Then shook his head, hard. On the terrace by the sea, just before our wedding, I finally asked the question that had been buried in my heart for years. Adam, back in high school, did you think I looked plain? Ugly, even? Back then, most of the boys in class did. He looked at me, wind in his hair, and answered. The first time I saw you, you were cradling that injured construction worker. Covered in his blood, holding him up so he didn't have to die alone. You were so radiant, I couldn't look straight at you. After that, I stared at your side profile for a whole year. You'll never know how many times you appeared in my dreams. I matured early. I knew the standards for beauty and ugliness were fickle, shallow, subjective. Judging people by their looks? Crude and lazy. I also knew that beauty fades with time. But a beautiful soul, never. Most importantly, Zella, I need you to believe me. Anyone I choose has to be 1 in 100 million.